Hello, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's me, Ally, here, trying to talk to Rog in Discord. Not sure if you can hear me.
My headphones.
You're Mr. Shirtless here.
Mr. Shirtless. The zipper noise.
Alright, do you have your news stories ready?
Little chilly this morning. Yeah, I'm ready. How's my sound? Oh, wow, that's loud.
Oh, it's fine for me.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta turn something down here.
Alright, ready to go? Let's go. Today on Before Coffee, an attack on culture. Athens Film fans fight threat to historic cinemas.
Okay. How the latest leaked documents are different from past breaches in a document leak with the Pentagon. Go ahead.
France. Marseille's blast. 2 dead and 6 missing after explosion destroys buildings.
In a divided nation, we have dual decisions on an abortion pill.
In Norway, super rich abandoning Norway at a record rate as wealth tax rises slightly.
And in sports, John Rahm rallies to win the Masters as Spanish stars align. Today, on the April 10th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
All right. Let's start with my first news story here, which is about Athens. Last week we talked about Athens' growing theater culture, and now it looks like, in return, the film culture is being attacked and threatened. Directors such as Yorgos Lanthimos have joined campaign to save the Astor, an ideal from the hotel and office developments. The specter of 2 historic Athens cinemas being closed by commercial interests Commercial interest bent on turning them into a hotel and office block has spurred filmmakers to get in front of the camera with pleas to stop the process. Directors of international acclaim have appealed to save the buildings amid mounting public disquiet over the pace of development in one of Europe's oldest capitals. Leading the charge, Costa Gavras, the Paris-based film director who shot to fame with the political drama Z, released when Greece was under military rule, called the existence of the ideal in Astor cinemas indispensable for the enjoyment of film in an era when barbarianism of movies being watched on TV and mobiles was widespread. It's funny to say that because the original meaning of the word barbarian is non-Greek. That's the original origin of the word. People who weren't Greek. I visited these 2 picture houses frequently in my youth, said non-Adjernarian, appealing to the culture patriotism of Lina Mendoni, the cultural minister, to save these theaters. In a similar video message, the Oscar-nominated director Yorgos Lanthimos underlined the social and cultural value of the 2 venues in the center of the city. I want to add my own voice to those who have recently expressed concern over the disappearance of the historic cinemas, said the Greek filmmaker, whose hits have included The Favorite, starring Olivia Colman. Last week, more than 5,000 cinephiles packed into the Astor, which opened its doors in the 1940s in a display of opposition to the cinema's closing. As debates has turned to thorny questions of tourism reach in an area where residents have been ejected from homes to make way for rental platforms such as Airbnb, the cinemas appear to be a tipping point. Both Astor and their deal are housed in buildings owned by the National Security Fund, EFKA. The state body recently announced it had leased the magisterial block that houses the ideal to a Greek hospitality group, which promptly unveiled plans to transform it into a luxury 5-star hotel. $36 million project, the company said, create at least 150 jobs. The building housing the Astor, which has been similarly leased, is due to be turned into offices. Responding to the outcry, the cultural minister has argued that the cinemas failed to meet the criteria for enhanced protection as listed buildings, unlike open-air summer cinemas that have been granted this protection. In contrast, the mayor of Athens, Kostas Bakoyannis, believes preservation orders should be placed on the cinemas, telling last week's protest gathering, "Yes, we want economic growth, and yes, we want investments in visitors. What we don't want is Athens losing its soul." The Greek capital, once viewed mainly as a conduit to other islands, has set a surge in tourists in recent years, with the hotel building frenzy underway to meet the demand. But it is development that may seem say has come at a price. The British director Ken Loach has also intervened, describing the two cinemas where his films have frequently screened as part of the city's culture, part of its history. Visitors come to see all aspects of your past, he said in a statement to support. The more developers are allowed to destroy, the fewer people will come to, and the fewer people who will watch your movies. Your campaign is vital to maintain a character of your wonderful city. Campaigners have found an unexpected backer in the country's president, Katerina Sakalaropoulo. In a Facebook post, the head of the state, whose home is within a view of Acropolis, bemoaned the paradox of living in a city that, while rich with antiquity, was in danger of losing its memory. With the loss of landmarks like cafes, cinemas, and theaters that were also, she wrote, part of its identity. So, gentrification and tourism is threatening Athens. I like, they should just force all buildings that are built to be old looking. And at least, do that, I guess.
Okay. I guess it's my story now.
Yep.
All right. So we had our huge Pentagon security leak. So there's somebody there's obviously a mole for Putin. When WikiLeaks spilled a huge trove, this is from the New York Times, David E. Sanger. When WikiLeaks spilled a huge trove of State Department cables 13 years ago, it gave the world a sense of what American diplomats, to each day, the sharp elbows and doubts about wavering allies and glimpses of how Washington was preparing for North Korea's eventual collapse and Iran's nuclear breakout. When Edward Snowden swept up the National Security Agent's secrets 3 years later, Americans suddenly discovered the scope of how digital age has ushered in a remarkable new era of surveillance by the agency, enabling it to piece China's telecommunications industry, these words they use. Pierce China's telecommunication industry and to drill into Google's servers overseas to pick up foreign communications. The cache of 100 or so newly leaked brief slides of operational data on war in Ukraine is distinctly different. The data revealed is far less comprehensive than those vast secret archives, but far more timely. And it is immediate salience of intelligence that most worries the White House and Pentagon officials. Some of the most sensitive material, maps of Ukrainian air defenses and deep dive into South Korea's secret plans to deliver 330 rounds of much-needed ammunition in time for Ukraine's spring counteroffensives, is revealed in the documents that appear barely 40 days old. It is the freshness of the secret and top secret documents and hints they hold for operations to come that make these disclosures particularly damaging, administration officials said. On Sunday, Sabrina Singh, a Pentagon spokesman, said the U.S. officials had notified congressional committees of the leak and referred to the matter to the Justice Department, which had opened an investigation. Boy, I hope they catch this. I hope they catch this. These absolute fucking criminals. Serious. Oh, let's leak war documents. That won't hurt anybody. The 100 plus pages of slides and briefings documents leave no doubt about how deeply enmeshed in the United States is in day-to-day conduct of the war, providing a precise intelligence and logistics to help explain Ukraine's success thus far. While President Biden has barred American troops from firing directly on Russian targets and blocked sending weapons that could reach deep into Russian territory, documents make clear that a year into the invasion, the United States is heavily entangled in almost everything else. Okay, so here we are. New York Times, basically not even really decrying a leak, but just basically they're the ones that are getting the information, so they're the ones putting it out there.
Yeah.
Because we got it, and we might as well put it out there because we got it, you know? So here we are. It's 40 days old in Intel. It's technically a leak that could be harmful, but again, if you leak information, sometimes maybe you want it to get out there. So we'll see. Your story.
All right. Yeah.
I'm not going to read all these guys' $40 words that he keeps putting in here to make me trip me up, you know. Well, I made a sentence with 17 four-syllable words in it. Okay, thank you. Nobody can read it on the air, but hey, go ahead. Your story.
Okay. In my next story, we have Marseille blast. 2 dead and 6 missing after explosion destroys buildings in France.
Shit.
Removal of bodies will take time, says fire department, as blaze under rubble hampers rescue efforts in the French city. 2 bodies were found in the rubble of a building that collapsed in Marseille following a major explosion, French authorities said early on Monday, as rescue workers scrambled to find at least 6 people still unaccounted for. The discovery of the bodies came about 24 hours after the blast brought down the 4-story building in the Mediterranean port city in southern France. Emergency workers had continued to rescue operations through Sunday night into the early hours of Monday with the help of crane lights, but a persistent fire underneath the rubble hampered their work, making it difficult for firefighters to deploy sniffer dogs. Given the particular difficulties of intervention, the extraction of the bodies from the site will take time, the fire department said in a statement, announcing the bodies had been found. The judicial authority will then proceed to identify the victims, it added. Early on Sunday, before the discovery of the bodies, local prosecutor Dominique Laurent said 8 people were not responding to phone calls. 5 people from neighboring buildings sustained minor injuries in the blast and collapse, which occurred at 1:40 a.m. on the Sunday local. Oh, that's awful. 1 in the morning on Sunday? Hell nah. That's the worst time to have something explode. Tonight, the pain and sorrow are great, Marseille's Major Benoit Payan said in a statement. All services of the city, as well as the state, are still at this very moment fully committed to continuing the search. The case of the explosion is still being determined, but investigators are looking at possibility it was a result of a gas leak. More than 100 firefighters are battling the blaze in the ruins of the building, which is believed to be in 1 apartment on each floor. We have nothing, not even an ID card. We have lost everything, said a man who gave his name as Roland in an interview with the local newspaper La Province. He managed to get out of the building on 14 Rue de Tivoli with his wife and 2 children before it collapsed. Together with the neighboring building, after the explosion around 12:40 a.m. local time, a 3rd building partly collapsed. 5 people were taken to the hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries. The Interior Minister, Harold Darmanian, who visited the site, said 30 buildings in the area were evacuated. Xaviera Mosnier, who lives in the street near the site in La Plaine neighborhood, said, I was sleeping and there was this huge blast that really shook the room. I was shocked awake as if I'd been dreaming. We very quickly smelled a strong gas odor that hung around. We could still smell it this morning. It was unclear how many people were inside the collapsed buildings. Not all the people who were supposedly inside have been seen. Families are worried, French Housing Minister Olivier Klein told the broadcaster France Info. Christophe Mirmond, the prefect of the southern Hauts-de-Rhône region, said, we have to be very cautious about what the cause was at this stage. Gas was one possible option. Gills, who lives on the side street near the building, told AFP sound of the crash was huge. It sounded like an explosion, he said, declining to provide his last name. Almost 200 residents were evacuated and 50 requested to be urgently rehoused. An aid center for people looking for missing family members or loved ones has been opened in the neighboring district. 8 were killed in Marseille in 2018 when 2 dilapidated buildings in the working-class district of Noailles caved in, and it cast a harsh light on the city's housing standard, with aid groups saying 40,000 people live in shoddy structures. Authorities appear to rule out structural issues in the latest collapse. In a neighborhood known for its bars and nightlife, there was no danger notice for this building, and it is not in a neighborhood identified as having substandard housing, said Mirmond. Further back in Marseille's history, 8 people were killed in a building collapse in 1981, 5 in an explosion in 1985, and 4 in a 1996 gas blast that demolished a 7-story building. Wow, I didn't know there was... I'm sure you could say that for every town, though, right? There's, 20 years separated or 5 years separated, there's been due to gas leaks. Well, hopefully they find those missing people and everyone's reunited. On to your next story.
Hopefully, yes, we have some happy resolutions to that tragedy. The reading an editorial, Daily Beast. It's written by Corbin Boyles, media reporter. This is an editorial. Mansplaining GOP thinks it's time to get off the abortion issue. Abortion access has been a political issue for decades since Roe v. Wade was passed, and its precarious position taking various levels of prominence in American politics before the bombshell that was Roe's reversal last year. But for Rep. Tony Gonzalez, Republican of Texas, women who now seek, who lack life-changing access to abortion, should just move on from the issue entirely. Just move on. What are you girls thinking? In an appearance of CNN's State of the Union on Sunday, Gonzalez was asked what a Texas federal judge's decision late Friday to suspend the FDA's 23-year-old approval of the common abortion drug mifepristone. I'm not going to try to pronounce that again. Gonzalez tried to paint the decision as a states' rights issue, despite a federal judge dictating it. Wow. And they warned Democrats against allowing the FDA to ignore the court's ruling. Host Dana Bash, however, noticed that the drug was also prescribed for women who suffer miscarriage, which can affect millions of women a year. A National Library of Medicine study last year estimated that as many as 20% of pregnancy ended in miscarriages. That, though, did not matter to Gonzalez. What are you talking, man? I ain't got a uterus. What the hell are you talking to me for? It's important to have a real discussions on women health care and get off the abortion, he said. Get off the abortion conversation. Women have a whole lot more other issues than just abortion. Let's have those real conversations. Let's talk about how women have the... Women then bizarrely pivoted to... Gonzalez then bizarrely pivoted to the southern border, bringing up a case last month in which a van of undocumented immigrants collided with a vehicle in Texas, killing a 7-year-old grandmother in Pemberga and her 7-year-old granddaughter, Emily. Oh, they gave them put their names on it. Maria Pembunga and granddaughter Emily Tamuga. The case received national coverage because it was both its tragic nature and open question attack of Biden administration, and it was not at all related to Bash's question. Abortion? What about tennis? What about the tennis game? And what about fishing? Okay. I gotta say.
That's it?
What does that mean? That means there are all these other things that happen in the world, especially in my district, that I've got a district that's turned upside down due to the border crisis. That's everyday people that are impacted by the crisis, including the Tambungas. Sorry, that's his actual speaking voice. Bash suddenly noticed how Gonzalez tangent had... Bash subtly noticed how Gonzalez tangent had nothing to do with the question she posed. Well, both things can be true. Everyday people can be affected by all these things facing Americans. What do you... Okay, alright, just scrolled past it. Let me get back. That's it. That's the story.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
That's it, good.
I mean, it's true. Women do have other health issues. A lot of them lead to, hey, can I get an abortion?
That doesn't make it. Yeah, but let's make something illegal that's used in therapy to treat miscarriages. Oh, no, doctors, go find something else to prescribe, you silly goose. Don't you know there's other things going on? Jeez, you... All right,
in my next story, we're going to talk about rich
next
people.
non-abortion related story, because there's other things for you.
No, we're just talking about rich people, the super rich even, how they're abandoning Norway because they raise the tax on wealth.
They do.
A record number of super rich Norwegians are abandoning Norway for low tax countries after the centre-left government increases the wealth tax to 1.1%. More than 30 Norwegian billionaires and multimillionaires left Norway in 2022, according to research by the newspaper Dagens Næringsliv. That's a great... This was more than the total number of super rich people who left the country during the previous 13 years. It added, even more super rich individuals are expected to leave this year because of the increase in wealth tax in November, costing the government tens of millions lost tax receipts. Many have moved to Switzerland, where taxes are much lower. They include billionaire fisher turned industrial tycoon Kjell Inge Roca, who moved to the Italian-speaking canton of Lugano, close to his favorite hangout, Lake Como, fashion capital Milan. Roque, 64, is the fourth richest Norwegian, with an estimated fortune of about 19.6 billion. Norway, I don't know what they use. Norway krones, probably? I don't know. 1.5 billion pounds, because this is reported by The Guardian, who is British. So they're reporting it in pounds, because that's widely used. It doesn't matter. It's a lot of money. Okay? It's $1 billion. In an open letter, he said, I have chosen Lugano as my new resident. It is neither the cheapest nor has the lowest taxes, but in return, it is a great place with a central location in Europe. For those close to the company to me, I'm just a click away. His relocation will cost Norway about 175 million, which is probably like not as much pounds, but in lost tax revenue each year. Last year, Roque was the country's highest taxed individual. Dagens Næringsliv calculated that he had paid about 1.5 billion tax since 2008. His move to Switzerland followed a relatively small increase in tax aimed at a country's super rich, who face wealth taxes at both the local and state level. That includes a municipal tax of 0.7 on assets in excess of 1.7 million for individuals and 3.4 million for couples. There's also a state wealth tax of 0.3 on assets above 1.7 million. In November, the government raised the state rate to 0.4% for assets above 20 million for individuals and 40 million couples, taking the maximum wealth tax rate to 1.1. Ole Glems Onstad, professor emeritus at the Norwegian Business School, said he estimated that those who have left the country had a combined fortune of at least...
That word is emeritus.
Emeritus. Okay, a professor emeritus at the Norwegian Business School said he estimated that those who had left the country had a combined fortune of at least 60 billion Norwegian krones, I think. It must be krones or NOK. 600 billion. In my opinion, it is a little bit like Brexit. Norway has no great tradition of self-harm, and the flood of entrepreneurs moving abroad has come as something of a shock, James Onstad said. Some politicians are, as you know, blaming the wealthy people moving, but I think many ordinary people quite simply do not like that our best investors are leaving. Tord Uland Kolstad, a retail estate and salmon farming investor with a fortune of about 1.5 billion Norwegian krone, has moved from Bodo in northern Norway to Lucerne in Switzerland. This was not what I wanted, but the toughened and increased tax value rules of the current government means that I, as founder and responsible owner, have no choice. Okay. What? I will be murdered if I paid those taxes. Like, no, you're gonna be okay. Oh no, instead of going on 15 vacations and buying a new yacht, I can't buy a yacht and I can only go on 10 vacations.
And my airplane needs new seats.
The victimization of these people is crazy to me. Oh, I had no choice, guys. I had to leave. Sorry, Norway. Kolstad said the increase in the wealth tax meant he would pay just over $6 million. $6 million out of his $1.5 billion. $6 million. That's literally one yacht. Oh no, I don't get to buy a yacht this year. Oh, darn.
We can't comprehend what these poor bastards go through. Having to give up one yacht. Having to invite their buddies onto their plane with the seats that need to be redone. You know, and they're embarrassed to fly their friends to the Super Bowl, you know, and they're playing with the new seat, you know, these new seat covers. Terrible.
Also said the increase. Oh yeah, we already said that. Which he complained would mean he would have to pay $6 million, which he complained would mean he would need to pay himself a dividend of $10 million to take into account increased dividend tax. Okay, so in total would be $10 million. Oh, or $16 million.
Oh, no.
This is unfortunately the reality of today's tax policy. It is just unjustifiable to impose such costs on the company when you want to create new jobs. Oh, right. Another excuse. Oh, man, if I have to pay this much taxes, guess I won't hire anybody. Guess you're all going to be
I'm a job
poor.
creator.
I think there should be how much money you're allowed to have limit. Like the whole world. It should be like, oh, you've reached the limit of how much money a person's allowed to have. You're over. It's done. You're done. Stop.
Yeah, we just
What
give
do you?
more things
1
to buy.
billion is so many zeros. It doesn't even conceptualize as much.
We used to tax rich people.
I mean, you know it's a problem how much money it is when you start talking in single digits again, right?
Oh, yeah, and you talk
Instead of saying 1,000, you start saying, or 6 million with a bunch of zeros. You just go 6M. Ah, yes,
6M,
that's easier to think of. Take the zeros out.
Yep. As a congressman, I forget it was, once said, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
Yeah.
That's the way they think with this.
Humans genuinely can't understand that amount, like, of anything. Friends, people, money. There's, like, humans cannot understand 6 billion. They can understand the words, but you can't conceptualize it in your brain. Like, seeing 6 billion. That's why they always have those really cool pictures, right? Where it's like, this is 1,000 pieces of rice. This is 6 billion pieces of rice and like 15 bags of rice, right? That's my favorite conceptualization of how much money these people have. 15 bags of rice. Like big bags. That's how much a billion is, you know?
Yeah,
it's not just a pile of rice that you eat. You know, that's 1,000 rice. Oh, that's how much you get, you know, in a normal serving. And here's how much these people have.
Right. Yeah. The bad news for these billionaires is they have a job. They have a job. Their job is not to simply sit at the top and collect all the money and keep it. They think that's their job. No, their job is to not keep the money. Their job is to put the money out there and help everybody else. Because what the hell are you doing if you're only helping yourself? You're creating an elite ivory tower group of people that are disconnected from the people who are doing all the work, and they have no idea where the money comes from. They think it's all just stock swaps and paper transfers. They don't see the real world below them. So yeah, their job is to make sure that money's distributed properly. Otherwise, the government's going to do it for them.
Which is exactly why they're raising the tax.
Exactly. You're not there just to simply make yourself filthy rich, you stupid, selfish bastards. And you're not smarter than anybody else. You're just motivated by different things. I don't care about owning a bunch of shit. If I did, I'd go out there and do it. I could, really. I'm smart enough. It ain't that fucking great. But I don't want to die at 68, clutching my heart in some fucking office, while everybody is totally dependent on all my damn decisions. Fuck that shit. I want to just sit around and do stuff I want to do. And I'll get really ambitious when I want to. But, anybody can be rich. It ain't nothing clever. It's just ambition is all it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to finish off the article, Erland Grimstad, the state secretary in the Ministry of Finance, told The Guardian he hoped wealthy Norwegians would return in time. If you have enjoyed success and become rich in Norway, we hope you will stay and continue taking part in Norwegian society, he said. We do encourage Norwegians to succeed in creating value and become rich, and we believe that Norwegian model with a strong public welfare system and high education levels are important factors in making the success possible. The model in Norway is that everyone should contribute relevant to ability, and therefore those that have a greater ability to pay tax should pay a little bit more. That's true. The thing with Norway, right, is I think they have really great education, safety nets, all sort of socialist help. So you think the people who are rich now didn't have that help to get there, right? That they just, dug themselves out of a hole all themselves? No. The whole system of Norway helped them, and they're paying back by giving their tax money. That's what this guy's saying. On to your next story.
Yeah, capitalists have been conned into thinking that the only way to be successful is to be super, super rich and boss people around. That's it. And not care about them whatsoever. That's my take. Oh, my story?
Yep.
Oh, in the more lighthearted world, they had the Masters tournament yesterday. They finished it. They had it this weekend. So we'll go to the
How many of your predictions were wrong?
Actually, I did quite right. I won money. As a matter of fact, I won money this weekend on the Masters. I'll get into that in a minute. John Rahm kept hearing how he was destined to win the Masters because so many Spanish stars were aligned in his favor. Sunday was the birthday of Seve Ballesteros, his idol and inspiration for playing. This year was the 40th anniversary of the second Masters title Ballesteros won. If that wasn't enough, caddy Adam Hayes was assigned white coveralls with number 49. Get it? 4-9.
Aha.
Just April 9th. I was told a lot of things about why this could be the year. Golfers are really superstitious. They're absolutely insane, as a matter of fact. And I just didn't want to buy in it too much. His golf was far more valuable than any historical coincidence. Rahm turned the longest day into the sweetest victory Sunday. The 30-hole marathon finish started with him trailing by 4 and ended up with a walk up the 18th green that nearly reduced him to tears and gave him another major that affirmed him as number one in the world. He closed with a 3-under par 69 to pull away from mistake-prone Brooks Koepka. He won by 4 shots over Koepka and 52-year-old Phil Mickelson, who was matched the low score for the tournament with a 65 and became the oldest runner-up in Masters history. Hooray, old people! We all dream of things like this as players, and we try to visualize what it's going to be like and what it's going to feel like. Rahm said, "Never thought I was going to cry by winning a golf tournament, but I got very close to that in the 18th hole. And a lot of what it means to me in Spanish golf. It's Spain's 10th major, 4th player to win a Masters. It's pretty incredible." It was Mickelson who declared Rahm would be among golf stars even before the Spaniard turned pro in 2016. Rahm now has a green jacket to go along with his U.S. Open title in 2021. It was obvious to me at a very young age that he was one of the best players in the world, even while he was in college, said Mickelson, whose younger brother was Rahm's college coach at Arizona State. And Mickelson and Rahm Both went to Arizona State, which is pretty cool for that. To see him on the stage is not surprising for anyone. So the guy finished first, guys finished second. Rahm made up 2 shots on Koepka over the final 12 holes. The rain delayed third round and started the final round 2 shots behind. He seized on Koepka's collapse and then surged so far ahead that Mickels's amazing closing round, it matched the 3-time Masters champion best final round, was never going to be enough. The finish was vintage Rahm. He pulled his drive into the pine trees and ricocheted out short of where the fairway starts. No problem. He hit a 4-iron towards the green and allowed it to pitch 3 feet to end his round with only 1 bogey. In other news, to other finishes and what I was covering before, I said last week, live golfers only play 3 rounds. You remember that?
Yeah.
Are you there? Okay. Well, what I said came true. Brooks Koepka, who was on the Live Golf Tour, had a 4-shot lead going into Sunday, right? He's a Live golfer, right? Used to playing 3 rounds. What happened to him in the 4th round? Total collapse. And again, he isn't a bad player. He had a 4-shot lead, and he ends up losing by 4 shots. Or 3 shots. So the only Live golfers that did well were Brooks Koepka, who folded at the end. Phil Mickelson, who surged at the end. But remember, Phil is 52. He hasn't been playing on Live Tour his entire career. He's been playing 4 rounds his entire career, right? He's used to 4 rounds. Brooks Koepka's been playing 3 rounds for a year. And when the 4th round came around, he just was tired. Especially when he had to do 30 holes in like a day and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
It rained all day Saturday or Friday. One of the days it rained all day. And the other Live golfer that did well was Patrick Reed, and Patrick Reed lives in Augusta, Georgia, right by the course. He played this course as a child, so he knows the course. And so those are your 2 Live golfers. The rest of them finished. The next one was Joaquin Newman, tied at -2. The rest of them finished pretty well out of the money. We're never a factor. And I guess that's about it. There's other interesting tidbits, with this alternative, but I don't know. Do you want to hear them? I bet on 4 golfers to finish in the top 10, and 5 golfers to finish in the top 10. 4 of them did. So I did win money this weekend.
Nice.
Your story. Not a lot of money. I never bet a lot.
All right. In culture news, we have... It's called Stealing. New allegations of plagiarism against Roy Lichtenstein. A pop art founder made millions, but the comic book artist he copied struggled financially. Roy Lichtenstein never shied away from the fact that his paintings were based on copies of comic strips. But some critics of one of the founders of American pop art have long argued that copying was too polite a term. Now, a new film alleges that hundreds of his pieces of work can be traced to other artists. It's called Stealing. This comic strip artist, Guy Eisman, who just turned 96 and only recently discovered that Lichtenstein had reproduced one of his images in the 1960s. I worked like a dog on this stupid page, and this guy has 20 million to show for it. If it wasn't so tragic, it would be funny. He vents his anger in a new documentary titled Wham! Blam! Roy Lichtenstein and the Art of Appropriation, which shows the original comic artist had lived austere and even destitute lives. While Lichtenstein's paintings sold for tens of millions of dollars, the originals had earned them just a few dollars. Eisman, who has worked for almost 75 years on a huge range of publications, most recently the Popeye comic strip, is among more than 30 comic artists appropriated by Lichtenstein who believe that they were cheated of recognition. Recalling the Private Secretary comic of 1963 was cribbed for Lichtenstein's Girl in a Window of the same year. He told The Observer, "I got paid very little for this page, something like $4. He was able to turn it into a painting and make millions. When I saw that what he did to other people, I thought it was a lousy thing to do, but until now I never thought I was involved. Oh yeah, that's literally, like, it's like almost the same picture, just colored different, right? Instead of the plane being like a gray color, it's a white color. But it's a plane with an explosion and it says blam. It's the same concept. Lichtenstein, who died in 1997, is widely regarded as one of the foremost artists of the 20th century. Along with Andy Warhol, he created the pop movement by appropriating imagery from modern American culture. His work now changes hands for millions of dollars, with the most expensive, a painting called Masterpiece, reportedly selling for $165 million. The documentary featured comic book expert David Barcelo, who traced over 300 Lichtenstein works to other artists. I thought maybe there's only 4 or 5 or 6 paintings I did close to the originals, but it was hard to describe my feelings as I started discovering more and more over the years that his images were just like direct copies. They included Lichtenstein's Blam of 1962, in which a pilot ejects from an exploding plane, just like the Russ Heath's All-American Men of War 89 of the same year. Heath was appreciated for the high quality of his work, but he struggled financially. He died in 2018, having ended his days relying on charity for food. Michael Daley, a cartoonist, said, "Comic book artists are rightly aggrieved. Aside from the outright plagiarisms, technically and artistically, they are generally far better draftsmen than Lichtenstein, who couldn't even correctly copy the properly drawn ellipses of a jet engine's air intake. They were also superior in their artful dynamic and expressive compositions, everyone being a master of the graphic potency of a cropped image." But Bradford R. Collins, author of the book Pop Art and professor of art history in the University of South Carolina, defended Lichtenstein. Not plagiarism, it's appropriation. With plagiarism, you're stealing somebody's work and using it for the same purpose they did. If Lichtenstein made a comic book out of it, that would be stealing. But appropriation means you're taking something, reusing it for a different purpose. Taking something out of a comic book and making it into a painting. I can understand why Eisman would feel angry. I would feel the same way, but artistically, it's not plagiarism. Before his death, Heath had expressed frustration. "I couldn't do anything because all the characters that I did draw for comic books were at the time owned by the comic book company. So if they want to sue, they could sue and have a legitimate reason to sue, but they wouldn't make enough to bother to have a suit." In the but Lichtenstein can just draw the same comic book character, change it a little, right, and then be like, "Oh no, this is my original work." Yeah. But if the comic book artist did the same thing, that he would even changing it a little, he would instantly be like, "Hey, you're reusing that drawing you made for us that we paid you for $4 for. We're suing you. Yeah. How dare you?" But because this guy's not related to the comic book industry, he can do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the documentary, a lawyer argues that Lichtenstein's work would be considered transformative because in most instances, he added new elements rather than making an exact copy. Lichtenstein himself said, "My work has been accused of looking like things that I copy. And it certainly does look like things I copy. But it is that quality, whatever art is, that transforms a work of art to be something different." Say said, when Lichtenstein did this in the 1960s, he was selling these paintings for thousands of dollars. That was an irritant to a lot of those comic artists, but the bitterness grew. As the years went by and as they moved into retirement, not only were they struggling financially, but they were watching these paintings rise dramatically in value. Alright, that's my article on Lichtenstein stealing paintings. That actually happened recently. There was a person who drew a painting and posted it on the internet, and then this guy from, I think, Czech, I think he was Czech, I can't remember which country, Hungarian maybe. He basically repainted the painting from the internet, right? Physically repainted it and said, "This is mine, buy it for $1 billion. And then somebody bought it. And then the person who made the original drawing was like, "This is literally my work." "Ah, but you see, he painted it into a physical form. It's not digital, hence he owns it now." Yeah, it's not a good place for that. That's very worrying. Yeah, future artists. You just remake it in a different form, suddenly it's yours. Yeah.
Being an artist is going to be a tough way to make a living. And the people that figure out how to make a living from it are not necessarily artists, right? They're opportunists. That's always the way, right? That's always the way. What happened with Elvis? Elvis would find a song he liked. He would find the person who wrote it, have his manager go there and buy the rights to the song. Not get the writer of the song, but buy the rights to it. Or reach an agreement where Elvis gets 50% of the royalties if he records it.
Yeah, but at least he buys them, right? This Lichtenstein wasn't even like contacting the artist he's stealing from, right? He just, oh, that's a cool comic picture. Let me go paint that real quick, okay, and go sell it for $1,000. You know, like what?
Alternatively, as the professor makes his point, alternatively, Led Zeppelin just went out and recorded this shit and didn't give a fuck who it belonged to. Yeah. I mean, Bob Dylan would do the same thing. He'd record a song and he'd tell his manager, who owns the rights to that? Go see if they'll negotiate with me to give up the rights. And they didn't give him money. But Led Zeppelin just said, fuck you, we just found a song and we're going to record it. We'll worry about the legal aspects later. And they got sued a lot. Right, this day in history?
Yep.
Hugo Grotius, the Dutch jurist and scholar whose legal masterpiece, De Jure Belli Archipexis, on the law and war and peace, was one of the first contributors of modern international law. He was born on this day in 1583. In 1633, bananas went on sale for the first time in London. A banana, what the hell is that? They said. In 1849, the safety pin was patented by Walter Hunt in the United States. He later sold his rights to the fastener for just $400. Yeah. I'm sure he died poor. 3 years after stopping in 1866, 3 years after stopping a carriage driver in Russia from beating his horse, Henry Bergh of the United States founded the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in New York City, the SPCA. In 1872, Nebraska celebrated the first Arbor Day by planting more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. That's a lot of trees in one day in 1872. In 1912, the RMS Titanic embarked on its main voyage, which ended in, well, we know how it ended. Mexican revolutionary Emiliano Zapata, champion of agrarianism who fought in guerrilla actions during and after the Mexican Revolution, was ambushed and fatally shot on this day in 1919. American author F. Scott Fitzgerald published The Great Gatsby this day in 1925. Egyptian actor Omar Sharif, known as for iconic roles in Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago, was born on this day in 1932. Halley's Comet reached its perigee, its point nearest nearest Earth, of its most recent passage of the planet on this day in 1986, which I kind of remember. I didn't see it though. It was a cloudy day, or a cloudy week, or whatever. I was in the Marine Corps, so I had a lot of time to look at the sky. After taking, I was probably in California. That had a lot to do with it. In 1988, after taking a decade to build, the Seto Great Bridge spanning the inland sea in Japan was open to traffic. In 2001, the Netherlands passed a bill permitting euthanasia, the first such law in the world. And in 2019, astronomers released the first ever image of a black hole, which is the center of a massive galaxy, M87. And birthdays today, John Madden was born in 1936. You do the math. He's 87, if he was alive. Matthew C. Perry, not the actor, The United States naval officer was born on this day in 1794. Maximilian Saito, Swedish actor, was born this way in 1929. And we already mentioned Omar Sharif. And Paul Theroux, American author, born this way in 1941. And that's all the news that's fit to print for planet Earth. On what day is this?
Okay, that has been Alison here from the Netherlands reporting on explosions, rich people, and what else did we talk about? Stolen paintings or stolen art. Hope to see you tomorrow for some more interesting news on what's happening here in culture and in Europe.
And this is Roger in the United States reporting on golf, espionage, and abortion rights for April 10th, 2023, before coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.